Hi viewers, welcome to Dr. Priyadarshini's Wills Coffee House Academy. Viewers, I'm back with Novels and Novelists of Modern Age Part 2. In my previous video, I have roughly divided and drafted the modern age with the themes and techniques used by various writers during the age. As a continuation to my previous video, we are going to explore deep on the interesting part of the modern age, the technique, stream of consciousness. For a small recollection, we classified the age into 5. Number 1, the beginners. Number 2, sexual mysticism. Number 3, stream of consciousness. Number 4, social realism. And number 5, satire and social consciousness. Out of which, the first two topics, the beginners and sexual mysticism, were dealt with in my previous video. The link of my previous video is given in the description box for your reference. Now let us get started with stream of consciousness, a remarkable technique which has become a representation of modern novels. It was James Joyce who first used the phrase stream of consciousness in his book Principles of Psychology, which was published in 1890, to describe the flux of conscious and subconscious thoughts and impression. To put it in a neat way, stream of consciousness means the free association of ideas in human mind like the water of stream carrying on its surface variety of objects without any link, relationship or relevance between them. The novelist who are using stream of consciousness technique does not tell us what the character thinks, but he takes us into the very mind of the character. So that is the speciality of stream of consciousness technique. This kind of novel represents a withdrawal from external reality into the dim twilight world of the character's private emotion. Stream of consciousness fiction was very much influenced by psychological findings of Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud. Freud postulated two regions of the mind. One is the waking mind of disciplined orderly life, and other is the subconscious mind free from control and repressive force. Freud kept underlining the importance of the second part of the mind in giving orientation to man's life. That is the mind which talks about subconscious mind free from control and repressive force. And the novelist of this age used stream of consciousness technique to bring this dark second part of the mind which would otherwise be invisible to the naked eyes. James Joyce is one of the forerunners in the sphere of modern novel. Although he is not the innovator of stream of consciousness technique in the novel, he is certainly one of the modern novelists who have freely used it in his novels. James Joyce is a serious novelist whose concern is mainly with human relationship, man in relation to himself, to the society, and to the whole race. He is also aware of the pettiness and meanness of modern society and of evils emerge out of it. He is a subtle analyst of man's inner consciousness. His sensitiveness, his depth of penetration into human consciousness impart to his character study and a subtlety unparalleled in those days. James Joyce's style has evolved from the straightforward, simple, plain writing of Dubliner to the complex allusiveness and the very originality of Finnegan's Wake. Finnegan's Wake presents a broken narrative with abrupt transition and logical sentence links omitted together with a new vocabulary. Thus, a writing is produced which is purely private in its significance. Joyce's interest in language and his eager experimentation are matchless in any period of English literature. His genius lies in the comic rather than the tragic view of life, and his work is full of wits, puns, and conceits. He is the writer of some poetry and a play is modelled on Henry Ibsen titled Exiles. He also wrote few prose pieces like Epiphanies, Chamber Music, to name some. His novels are A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, published in 1916, Ulysses, his most controversial novel, published in 1922, and Finnegan's Wake, published in 1939. An earlier version of A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man is called Stephen Hero. This is very important. The next remarkable writer who comes to our mind when stream of consciousness is spoken about is Virginia Woolf. Virginia Woolf is another powerful writer whose use of stream of consciousness technique remains the finest example till today. She was the daughter of a great Victorian critic and scholar, Sir Leslie Stephen, and showed a great originality as a thinker of her times, which is exemplified in her wonderful book, A Room of One's Own. One should remember, A Room of One's Own is regarded as a treatise on feminism even today. It has been prescribed in many of our syllabus of English literature. So that much important is Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own. Her earlier novels, The Voyages Out and Night and Day, are conventional like any other traditional novelist. But soon she felt dissatisfied with the style of Beckett and Galsworthy tradition and turned away from it. She adopted psychological method of James Joyce, seeking to explore the essential truth. Her great novels were written in 1920s and 1930s. Mrs. Dalloway came out in 1925, To the Lighthouse in 1927, Orlando in 1928, and The Waves in 1931. Woolf did not give much value to the plot, to the external world, and external world is quite limited and unimportant to her. Therefore, her characters are also quite limited. She belonged to the Bloomsbury group, which include E.M. Forster, Lord Keynes, Roger Fry, Clive Bell, Lytton Strachey, and McCarthy, among others. The group was under the influence of the philosopher G.E. Moore, who emphasized not the importance of God, politics, or history, but the pleasant state of feeling that originated from the enjoyment of love or friendship or the admiration of beauty in art, in nature, or in human beings. Woolf's faith and conviction are reflected in her characters like Mrs. Dalloway and Mr. Ramsay. In her novel, The Waves, a remarkable novel, we find maturation of experimentation with the interior monologue. Even though she did not get a proper education, she remained, or I can say, she is still an author who is highly regarded for her manner of writing by the critics. Bernard Blackstone, one of the biographers of Virginia Woolf, praises Woolf's immortal creation as Virginia Woolf's world will survive as the crystal survives under the crushing rock masses. Yes, he is right, of course. Who will not admire the conflict of an individual inwardness that Virginia Woolf has depicted in her novels? James Joyce and Virginia Woolf are the great developers of stream of consciousness technique in their novels. Apart from them, we can find such tints in the work of Dorothy Richardson, who has got the reputation of initiating the installment or serial novels in which the story is told over several books. Stream of consciousness technique brought a new color to the novels. It proved that even without an active plot and lively characters, a novel would still be interesting. It is a kind of testimony that shows the internal conflict are more exploitable areas than the external conflict, With a combo pack of psychology and story narration together, they pave way to the current trend of narrating the story in bits and patches without chronology. Innovation are good anyway, as it helps you to grow. So, that is all with today's video. Viewers, I'll be catching you with the novels and novelists of modern age, part 3 in my next video. Till then, a brief part from Dr. Priyadarshini's Will's Coffee House Academy. For more such videos, subscribe my channel. Your comments and support would always enlighten me. So people keep supporting me. We shall meet in the next video. Thank you.